If you've had any cryptid encounters that you'd like me to share on here, email me at jttosstories@gmail.com. Story 1. Last year, I had a very strange experience in a national park out in California. I was by myself on a road trip with my dog, and I was driving pretty far into Mendocino National Forest. I like to camp in national parks and forests because they're isolated so my dog can roam and they're free of charge. The trade-off is for the sketchy and rough drives into the parks, and sometimes that there is a lack of service or assistance. Anyway, I was driving up this dirt road, kind of curling up a mountain, around maybe 5 p.m. It was very nice out, sunny and warm with a slight breeze. Nothing serious happened, but I felt extremely uncomfortable driving into the area, and that feeling did not let up. Driving up the mountain, I felt like I shouldn't stay there, and I even texted my boyfriend about it for as long as I could before my phone completely lost service. I was looking for a sign of another person, having been around the area lately, but I didn't see anything. I pulled over and got out of my car with my dog to look around the edge, and noticed a dead squirrel and some broken glass mixed in with the dirt and gravel road. Yuka, my dog, started to growl slightly. She is vocal, but I've almost never seen her growl at anything other than other dogs. I did see her growl at a possum once, so it could be something she smelled. Maybe. This place continued to make me feel quite on edge, but I pride myself in being an independent traveler and backpacker, so I decided to continue at least a bit further with my grumbling pup to see if I could find a good place to camp. I continue to notice more dead animals. Keep in mind, no one is going to be more than 5 or 10 miles per hour up this thing. And that's if there's even anyone here. I hear men's voices. They sound close, and I think I should call out to them, so I stop my car. But then I kind of freeze up and feel like I shouldn't. I can't really make out what they're saying. I don't see any sign of people anywhere, and I get back in my car, continue to slowly drive forward and cautiously look for where the voices could be coming from. I've never ran into other people in a national park or forest when I've gone this deep in. The unsettling feeling grows about the voices, which have sort of come and gone a few times, and I give up and begin to turn my car around. I honestly don't remember how Yuka was acting on the way down. I was scared and focused on getting out of there. I just distinctly remember being surprised at her grumbling when we were standing outside my car. Kind of dangerously quickly, I went back down the mountain, not seeing any sign of anyone. I decided to spring for luxury and get a hotel for the night. I figured I was just fine. Huge and open spaces can be intimidating, I told myself, and the voices could have just been echoing from somewhere far off, and they just sounded close. Animals die, glass gets broken, nothing happened. Cool. But I remember this place. It sticks with me. Whenever I'm watching scary movies, if I'm walking my dog in the woods at night, nothing compares to the feeling I had driving up that mountain. It's honestly kind of interesting to me as well as frightening. I recently happened across some information, as well as some Native American lore that made me feel extremely uneasy. Fast forward a year, I've mentioned this place to a few people, and the haunting vibe it gives me, but nothing much more. I googled the national park once and I didn't see anything, but I didn't look too much either. I like scary movies and things of that nature, hence my fascination with this event. So my boyfriend and I were coming up on our fishing trip just yesterday. We were in Wyoming for a wedding. There were only 2 or 3 hours left, and the sun had set, so we decided to listen to some scary podcasts and YouTube videos. Like Journey to the Other Side. We went from the No Sleep podcast to the X-Files, and ended up on a true story video dealing with the Native American lore. I'm half paying attention, petting my dog, playing Pokemon on an emulator. and I hear the narrator mention Wendigos. Very briefly, he says what they are and casually mentions that they can mimic voices. I mean it when I say the most horrible chills I've ever felt in my life crawl down my spine, and I stare at my boyfriend and ask him if he remembers that national forest I was freaked out about a year ago. He says that he does, and he reminds me that he texted me I was probably close to a Wendigo. I remember him saying that, but didn't know much about their lore, and thought he was just being funny, like, yeah, Bigfoot is probably stalking you, or some other dad joke. And he was like, no. I mean, I was mostly joking, but I said it specifically because you said you were hearing voices that you couldn't find a trace of. I felt very strange, and I started Googling Wendigos, etc. They are allegedly able to mimic human voices, and they would live in that sort of area, so it all kind of matched up. Obviously, there's a ton of questionable info out there, but I tried to find more reputable websites and authentic experiences. I then specifically looked up missing persons in the area, and the first headline that catches my eye is, "Another family goes missing in Mendocino." And I went through different websites and news articles of people going missing, but they're all a little hidden underneath national park websites and pictures of trees. I remember looking up the forest about a year ago and didn't see anything, and realized those stories didn't seem to be talked about much, which also piqued my intuition. It was stated that well over 100 people in the past 8 years have gone missing and not been found, on top of how many which are found dead. It just has my intuition super spiked. Remembering how unsafe I felt and how much I wanted to get out of there terrifies me, and I felt so uneasy about what I was hearing, and due to this very day. My dog and I are very close. She was a stray that started following me one day, and I ended up bringing her home from Costa Rica, so her little growls along the way made me feel like there was something wrong. Even though it was just a storytelling video, these stories came from somewhere. I've done a lot of solo traveling, both in and out of the country, and I've never had such a bad feeling, on top of seeing an unnecessary amount of dead animals in the national forest, which just seems strange. I don't think I'll be doing any more solo traveling unless it's around civilization. Does anyone know about authentic Native American lore, or has anyone else had some kind of inexplicable experience like this? Extra points if you've had bad vibes in Mendocino National Forest from Wendigo. Story 2. It was in Corydon, Indiana, and in the summer of 2017. My now ex-wife and I had heard stories of the legend of Lickford Bridge and decided to check it out for ourselves. The story goes that, back in the day, the man who used to own land would take his workers to the bridge and slit their throats and then dump their bodies into the river below. In more modern times, after the house was renovated along with the bridge, a father killed his young family and buried them under the porch before killing himself on the bridge. There are apparently police records from the time, and you can see where it appears the porch of the house has been dug up. So it was around 1 a.m. and we decided to go. It was a humid and rather hot summer night, and we were driving with the windows down in a black car. As we turned down Lickford Road to go to the bridge, which was pretty far back in the boonies, it began to get colder. By the time we arrived at the bridge, it was cold enough to see your breath. After crossing the bridge, we noticed what had to have been thousands of fireflies in the trees looking like Christmas lights. Even after going to the house, we never felt any sense of dread or fear, just a general spooky vibe from an abandoned building. On the way back towards the bridge, as we were about to cross, we heard a noise off to our left down by the bank. I figured it sounded like a deer hoofing the ground or something along those lines. As we went closer to investigate, it became more clear it was the sound of digging, and the dirt was occasionally being thrown in the water. When I shined my flashlight down on the bank, we saw what appeared to be a person in a squatting position who was rapidly throwing dirt over their shoulder while digging. Upon closer inspection, the figure was pale white and seemingly emaciated. As my light traveled up its back and came closer to its head, it stopped digging, its head shot up quickly and briefly turned around to face us. All I remember seeing were sunken black eyes, We made a break for the car. Now the black car was covered in dust from the road of dirt leading to the bridge, and when I shined my light on my car, I saw several handprints with elongated fingers. We drove away and vowed to never come back. Was it the rake, or was it something else?